So you're a leader of a small country where there is no easy way to get people out of poverty, no oil and gas, no significant amount of underground resources, and an infrastructure that needs billions of dollars to be improved and able to function properly. You have already promised your people economic prosperity and better quality of life. But how can you grow your economy and take people out of poverty? How can you convince any international bank or any government to lend you money? You're not part of the club and they don't care about you. And even if they do give you billions in loans, how are you going to pay it back? There are a few companies who love to invest in sweatshops in small countries. But for now, let's say you are a good leader who doesn't want any sweatshops, child labor, and slavery in your country. Then it's safe to say your only option is tourism. Many countries chose the path of tourism to eradicate poverty and grow their economy. And some of them were certainly unaware of the consequences of developing their country based on tourism revenue. Some of these countries are success stories, and some created disastrous consequences that their people have to face for generations. I'm Sam, and this is the horrific impact of tourism in small countries. First, let's see why many developing countries focus on their tourism industries. The amount of money that needs to be invested in tourism to bring in acceptable profits is significantly less than many other industries. It's easy money compared to industries like the car industry or the tech-related industries. The second reason is tourism doesn't need a massive infrastructure. There are countries with small airports and an old and fragile infrastructure that have succeeded in attracting millions of tourists. All they do is develop one small area, usually with beautiful natural resorts, and then promote only that area. Who cares if the rest of the country is drowning in poverty with no running water and extremely low quality of life? This beautiful small paradise is the only thing that matters for now. The third reason is it is extremely difficult to convince foreign investors involved in other industries to trust your small, fragile economy, especially when your infrastructure doesn't allow industrial growth. How can Amazon invest in your country when people can't afford any of their products? Or how can Mercedes invest in a country that doesn't have a big modern port? On the other hand, tourism industry companies are among the easiest to convince when it comes to foreign capital. You can find a Radisson Blu or Hilton hotel in the most random small towns around the smallest countries in areas that don't really have any other industry. These multinationals are always ready to bring in their hundreds of millions to build fancy hotels and resorts. The reason is they don't need your money. They already have a global chain of first world people who can afford their nice hotels, and all they want from you is a small airport and a bunch of people who would work for them with a nice salary of $200 a month. Well, sometimes they pay more. It depends. While tourism is often seen as a catalyst for positive change, when mishandled, it can lead to detrimental consequences to any small nation, and that can affect them for generations. The first negative effect of tourism is bad money. The seasonal nature of tourism often results in fluctuating employment rates, leaving locals with unstable job security and impacting overall quality of life. Consider Jamaica as an example. Inequality has become so extreme in today's Jamaica that not only 20% of the population is below the poverty line, but also 60% of the entire nation's wealth is held by 10% of Jamaicans. You can never truly improve your quality of life if you're employed 4 months a year and have no stable job for the rest of the year. The money that tourism brings in doesn't have the same impact as the other industries that offer full-time and stable jobs. Also, tourism-centric economies predominantly offer low-level jobs, and that means people who are employed in the sector never really reach higher standards of income and life. If you look at other industries like tech and manufacturing, most local employees that they have will learn skills that can be used in many different jobs, and in the long term, local investors will eventually come around and start smaller factories without any skilled labor shortage. But the jobs that locals are offered in tourism industry are mostly in the category of unskilled workers, and that means no actual improvement of the skilled labor market in the future. In other words, tourism can create a labor market of unskilled workers who are absolutely dependent on only one industry and don't have any motivation to learn professional skills. How are you going to diversify your country's economy with such a labor market? And if that's not enough to cripple your country's future growth, rapid tourism development can also lead to unusual inflation, driving up living costs and pushing locals out of their own neighborhoods and destroy their purchase power. That's why tourism money can be considered bad money. The second negative effect of tourism is cultural erosion. Cultural exchange is considered a positive aspect of tourism, but when it comes to small countries, it can lead to the erosion of a country's unique identity. Tourism influx may trigger cultural clashes, as traditional practices and values clash with the expectations of visitors.
Tourist deported over a nude photo on sacred tree. German tourist strips naked at Bali temple performance. Bali tourist arrested after exposing genitals. For the island of gods, that is some ungodly behavior.
The demand for authentic experiences can lead to the commercialization of cultural traditions, turning sacred practices into for-profit fake performances. Rituals that were once respected by locals can turn into shows to visitors. And places that were built hundreds of years ago for cultural and religious purposes can be turned into Western-style membership institutions that charge people to give them a taste of a culture that they can never truly appreciate and they will never understand. And all of this results in discouragement of locals to pursue their culture and rituals, and we all know what that leads to. Perhaps the worst aspect of tourism industry is its vulnerability to global crisis. It is among the first industries that negatively react to any economical crisis in the world. Countries heavily reliant on tourism are the most vulnerable to global economic downturns. A decline in tourist arrivals, as seen during crises, can devastate the local economy in a way that it would take decades to recover. The 2008 economic crisis impact on Emirates' economy, or more specifically on Dubai, can be an example of such consequences. Dubai's real estate industry came to a halt. The amount of job losses skyrocketed and many small businesses went out of business forever. You could see supercars left to rot by people who left Dubai to never come back. And we all know that Dubai was not dependent only on tourism. It was only one of their major industries at the time. But a country like Maldives that didn't have any major industry other than tourism had to face a much harsher consequence. Maldives had a 12% GDP growth in 2007 and only 1% in 2008, and they didn't have Dubai's oil to save their economy from a massive decline. The negative effects of 2008 global recession on Maldives' economy took at least a decade to be resolved. And again, during 2020 lockdown, a quarter of Maldivians lost their jobs. The GDP growth decreased by almost 30%, and annual GDP went down by 33%. And Maldives is yet again on the path to a painful recovery. The focus on developing tourist-centric infrastructure may lead to the neglect of other essential sectors. While tourist cities flourish, non-tourist areas may be left in disarray. The divide between the developed and neglected regions is sometimes unbelievable in some countries. You can literally go from a heaven-like beautiful resort to less than 100 miles away, where there's no running water, schools are overcrowded, and roads almost unusable. When a government earns easy money from an area with little investment and effort, it gets hard to convince them to invest in other areas, so it can lead to the neglect of all other potential industries and kill them before they can grow and become a significant share of the country's GDP. In other words, many small country governments cut budgets from many other sectors and pour it all into tourism because they know the return will be fast and easy. We can consider Belize as an example. Despite years of tourism growth and billions of dollars that it has brought to the country, Belize has a poor infrastructure that has all sorts of problems. The government has found an easy and fast way of generating income, and it seems the citizens who aren't living in the tourist areas are not considered citizens at all. One of the significant downsides of tourism is the environmental toll it can take. More than 3,000 tourists clamber up the narrow stone staircases every evening, manhandling sandstone carvings as they try to get a sunset view of the world's biggest religious structure. It simply cannot survive this daily assault. From the Las Vegas-style shopping malls to a massive theme park just outside the complex. A golf course has opened within 4 miles of the park, and the area's water supplies are being polluted by hotels flushing untreated sewage into the Siem Reap River. The same thing is happening to many natural resorts and historical sites all around the world. Tourist hotspots often become overcrowded, putting immense pressure on delicate ecosystems. The pristine landscapes that once attracted tourists may suffer irreversible damage, leaving a lasting scar on the environment. These damages are sometimes irreversible and will always be suffered by the next generation, who can never experience the same beauty of environment their parents did. Tourism is the fastest and easiest way for an underdeveloped country to develop, create jobs, increase income, and so on. But it can become the curse of a nation if the authorities focus on it in a destructive way. And if a country reaches high levels of tourism without proper development of its middle class and infrastructure, the local people will be the ones that suffer the most, especially next generations that will be born in a country with a destroyed environment, a fragile labor market, and much lower purchase power than their parents. While tourism holds the potential to uplift small countries, it's essential to recognize its potential for harm. Tourism is a double-edged sword that, if used recklessly, will have consequences that go further than one generation and can change the entire path of a small nation forever. Let's be aware of the shadows behind the glimmer of tourist attractions. What is the effect of tourism in your country? Have you seen negative or positive results of it where you're from? Please share your thoughts in the comments. See you on the next journey.